From the beautiful city of Los Angeles, California, we bring you the Gimme Three podcast.
Welcome back, cinephiles, cinema lovers, and movie appreciators to the Gimme Three podcast, a series for cinephiles. I'm your co-host, Bella F. Stratus, and I'm joined as always by my amazing co-host, Nicholas Ibarra. Nick, how are you doing today?
Doing good. I'm excited for our theme today. We're going to be talking about a wonderful actor who's also celebrating a birthday.
Yes, exactly. And before we jump into the episode, consider this your official spoiler alert, because we're diving deep into these three films today. And yes, as Nick said, February 24th, a very special day. It's the great Daniel Kaluuya's birthday. So, we had to do a Gimme Three spotlight to celebrate this wonderful actor who has consistently delivered some of the most compelling and memorable performances in modern film. So, for a little introduction to this great actor, God, Kaluuya just knows exactly how to command the screen with or without words. He could be playing a quiet, contemplative observer, or we've seen a bold and fierce revolutionary leader. Either way, he's kicking ass, absolutely killing it. I first discovered Daniel Kaluuya in one of my favorite shows, especially as a teenager, Skins UK. Yes, you've heard me talk about it probably too many times here on the podcast. But here we are again, because Kaluuya plays one of the most underrated and memorable side characters named Posh Kenneth. And God, he's absolutely hilarious. If only we could have seen a Posh Kenneth episode, maybe in another universe.
Somebody suggested that to me the other day. Somebody was like, I told them we were doing a Daniel Kaluuya episode, and they're like, have you seen Skins UK? And I said, who?
I'd be interested to hear what you think of that show. It's a wild one. Well, in this universe, Kaluuya was actually even more involved in the series than I realized. He was a writer all throughout season 1 and 2.
Oh.
And he was head writer for Jal and Thomas's episodes, which is so cool. I was so surprised to hear that, and, just really shows how well-rounded and talented he truly is. What was the first thing that you saw Daniel Kaluuya in, if you can remember? Or like the thing that put him on your radar, I
mean,
guess.
Get Out. I think Get Out was the thing that I may have seen him before that. I probably did, but that movie was such a memorable experience, memorable theater-going experience, and the movie obviously was such a cultural phenomenon when it came out that I think that obviously that really pushed him into the realm of superstardom, and the fact that this guy knows how to pick them.
Yeah, seriously. That for me was also, I mean, I had seen him also in another one of my favorites, Black Mirror. He was in like the second episode of the modern Twilight Zone sci-fi series called 15 Million Merits. And that's kind of when I was like, who is this guy? And I guess that performance didn't just catch my attention, but it was also the performance that influenced Jordan Peele to cast him in Get Out. So,
is that right? Nice.
That film changed the trajectory of his career, put his name on the map, so to speak, and earned him his first Academy Award nomination. And I was looking it up, and that was a fun year for Best Actor. We had Daniel Kaluuya and Timothée Chalamet, the fresh, young, and brilliant young actors of this new generation. And they were up against some of the GOATs, literally, with like Gary Oldman, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Denzel Washington.
Wow. Yeah.
Which I think is just so cool to see, especially since years have passed and we've seen those two specifically, Timothée Chalamet and Daniel Kaluuya, grow even more. But yeah, starting with that breakout role in Get Out, Kaluuya has built such a rich career that really actively uplifts Black stories, choosing projects that explore Black history, Black pride, racial tensions, systemic power structures, and each one is totally different and powerful in its own way. Like Get Out, Black Panther, Judas and the Black Messiah, Queen and Slim, Nope, or even Hobie as Hobie across the Spider-Verse. They all approach these themes very differently, but what ties them together is truly Kaluuya's unique ability to just bring such incredible depth and nuance to every character that he plays. I mean, his portrayal of Fred Hampton and Judas and the Black Messiah, which we'll talk about today, was nothing short of incredible. And it was the role that earned him his first Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Fun fact, he was actually the 7th youngest actor ever to win an Oscar in that category at just 32 years old. So good for him, keeping it going. So yeah, I love to see Kaluuya receive some of his stars. I think he deserves even more. I was so happy to see him join Leicester Square's film icon scene in London with the statue of him as Chris in Get Out that they unveiled back in October. And if you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely check it out. It's like a horizontal statue of him falling into the sunken place in Get Out. It's so cool. And so Chris is now forever there alongside other iconic characters like Harry Potter, of course. They've got Mary Poppins, Batman, Gene Kelly, and Singing in the Rain. Pretty cool stuff. So today, in honor of Kaluuya's birthday, we're going to take a closer look at his career, reflect on some of his most memorable performances, and just talk about what makes him such a standout actor. So without further ado, Nick, do you want to kick us off with our first film?
Our first film, which Bella just mentioned, Judas and the Black Messiah from 2021. It's directed by Shaka King, and it stars Daniel Kaluuya, of course, Lakeith Stanfield, Jesse Plemons, and Dominique Fishback, who I just love in everything she's in.
Same.
This movie's based on a true story, of course. It's about the FBI's surveillance and, attack, I'd say, on the Black Panther Party. Particularly the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party and its chairman, Fred Hampton, who's played by our man, Daniel Kaluuya. And how do they do this? Well, they infiltrated through this guy, Bill O'Neill, who's played by Lakeith Stanfield. And what a great introduction to this character. He's strolling around, creeping around outside of a bar, and he's dressed in like an overcoat and a hat, and boom, busts into the bar, and he flashes his FBI badge, and he's searching all the people and all these dudes. And then we realize this guy is a hustler, and he's just trying to steal a car, and he's actually not an FBI guy. So anyways, he is caught. He is facing time in prison for assault and for impersonating an officer. And the FBI agent asks him, why? Why impersonate an officer? And O'Neill says, a badge is scarier than a gun. So the FBI, they offer him a way out. If you help us infiltrate the Black Panther Party, you get close to Fred Hampton and help bring this man to the FBI. Help bring Fred Hampton down. You will be a free man. So O'Neill agrees, and thus begins a pressure cooker of conflict coming at all sides. We got this war against police brutality by the Black Panther Party, which is very real, and lives are being lost. And Fred Hampton, he's trying to keep his party focused, diligent on what matters, real revolution, steps, forward progress towards socialism. And Hampton's trying to keep the Black Panther Party focused on the big picture. And O'Neill, who's worked his way up to the head of security of the Black Panther Party, undercover for the FBI, is starting to see the big picture himself. And maybe his capitalist approach to life and his individualism wasn't the way to get ahead. Maybe choosing to believe in something bigger than yourself can give your life purpose. But the question is, does this revelation come too late? Judas and the Black Messiah. Bella, had you seen this before, or was this your first viewing?
Yeah, I'd seen this one before, and God, what a story and what a brilliant movie. It gets me every time. I honestly think this is one of my favorite movies of all time. A bold statement. Whenever I come back to it, you're just in it. It's so immersive. You can't take your eyes off of it. The performances are so unbelievably strong, and the storytelling is just brilliant. Like it has such a incredible flow. And when I first watched this movie, and I even felt it the second time around as well, the first thing I thought of was just kind of how much my high school education of Black history failed me. Like I didn't know who Fred Hampton was and this whole story, and that is just insane to me. Insane to me.
I think most American high schools don't teach about Fred Hampton.
Yeah.
I think it's rare when you find a high school that is teaching about Fred Hampton. I mean, it's like they talk about Martin Luther King. They'll kind of like, you know, spend about 10 minutes and be like, oh, yeah, there was this also guy, Malcolm X, and we'll move past him. And then there's like JFK, you know, they totally skip over this. It is 2 paragraphs in the junior high textbook, the Black Panther Party, 2 paragraphs. So yeah, this movie came out in 2021, still in the throes of the COVID-19 pandemic, where most theaters in this country were shut down. So unfortunately, it did not get the audience or find the audience that it deserved, which is a shame, really, because it's such a as you mentioned, a masterful piece of work. Shaka King, he really intricately balances character work, character development, the psyche of these characters, while maintaining a strong social psyche, exploring very big themes of the time, themes of today, so that psychological and sociological balance are just executed to perfection here. Kaluuya, really fun to see him in a role like this, because so often we do see him as kind of like this reserved, quiet character, and so much of his performance is done silently and through his eyes, which he is incredible at. You know, he's very good at, you know, telling stories with his face and his eyes and his body language. But fun to see him play somebody like Fred Hampton, who is obviously so bombastic, so magnetic, so loud, so well spoken, you know.
It's not a question of violence or non-violence. It's a question of resistance to fascism or non-existence within fascism. You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
And we get to see the 2 sides of Fred Hampton too, which like is perfect for Kaluuya, because he gets to also have those kind of like quiet, introverted moments as well.
Yes, totally. I love that scene because, you know, his voice is his strength in this, like, which, like you said, we don't see as much in some of his other roles. And I love that scene between him and Deb, Dominic Fishback's character, and she's like, I didn't expect you to be shy.
Yeah.
It's so sweet.
And although I know this is the Kaluuya episode, but I do want to give some kudos to Lakeith Stanfield, because he really embodies this tortured soul, you know, going through this real identity crisis. And you could just see him getting ripped apart on the inside. And it makes just such perfect sense. It's just such a damn good movie, because the reason the Panthers never sniffed this out, you know, is because as a black man in 1968 in Chicago, you would be feeling this anyway, you know, like, so his tension is merited from his internal conflict. You know, we see his internal conflict because he's, you know, under fucking pressure, but his external conflict would be a good enough reason for this man to be so tense and like shifty eyed anyway. So it's just it all works.
God, so true. Yeah, I love the like the way it explores moral ambiguity, if you will, like, which I feel like is so important. I think it's so important they touch on that so much in this film, and that shines through so much, like you said, in Lakeith's performance, because, you know, you could very easily judge his character and what he does with no remorse, but at the same time, he's really up against a wall in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you think, like, if I were him, what the hell would I do? To be like, you want to think that you would obviously not help the FBI, but considering all the factors that you mentioned, like, it's almost as if he didn't have a choice either way. I don't know though. It's hard. It's hard because he did, but yeah, it's
well, and more than would you help the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
His whole mindset at the beginning of the film, and he is trying to steal a car. He's stealing from other black men,
right.
He is a taker. He is about his individual gain. And that's why he signs up for, this gig, to help the FBI. He's like, okay, I'll do it, but I'm going to have to get a lot of money to do it.
Right.
So it's not just O'Neill as the antagonist and the antithesis to what the Black Panther Party's standing for. It is this need, this desire, and this indoctrination of trying to get ahead, trying to get one up, trying to be the capitalist. And throughout the movie, Jesse Plemons' character is like giving him those little kisses of it, like, come to my house. Oh, no, I'll cook you some barbecue. Here, try the good scotch. Oh, okay, we're gonna meet at this nice restaurant, and he's like eating the steak, and he's like, fucking, hey man, this is all right. This life is not bad, and it's like, yeah, sure. It's easy to get, most of us are guilty of this also, to just get, hypnotized and zombified by the pleasures in life,
especially in like a broken system.
So yeah, interesting play stuff here, man. Interesting psyche, man. And Lakeith just fucking embodies it so perfectly, The modern American male, more than just a black character going through this. I think he embodies the modern American male very well.
I agree. Yeah.
They said he said he had to get therapy after this role because it fucked him up so much.
I bet, dude. Oh my God. Yeah. This movie is definitely, it's very heavy. Yeah. Just kind of pulling back the veil on a history that was so important, but completely brushed under the rug.
Yeah. So the director, Shaka King, he said, he described the initial idea for this movie. He wanted to do kind of like The Departed.
Oh, interesting.
Which you could totally see.
But,
put The Departed inside the world of the counterintelligence program. And he was like, oh, okay, how fun would it be to use that concept as a Trojan horse to get us into a Fred Hampton biopic and introduce most of the world and the country to, this important American figure that a lot of people don't know about. Really, really smart genre work here.
Yeah. Because, like, on top of just being a good-ass movie, for lack of better words, it's very educational.
Yeah. You'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot while you are on the edge of your seat.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I do have here 3 pieces of trivia.
I want to play a game.
Piece of trivia number 1. We got Dominique Fishback, who we've both love and adore. She, in her own right, is a poet and a playwright. So in the film, she reads a poem to Fred Hampton, a poem that he discovered while he was going through her diary.
Oh man, deal breaker.
The poem's got a great title. It's something like, "Are you a bad motherfucker or a bad mother?"
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, her character was like, okay, I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to share you. This is how I'm feeling. That poem, which is so beautiful, was written by Miss Dominique Fishback.
No way.
Yeah.
God, that's one of the most memorable moments for me in the film.
One of the great scenes in the picture.
Yeah, I think another strong suit of this film is the female the women in it are just as important as the men. Mm-hmm. Her character, I feel like, could easily have been brushed under the rug. She's of equal importance, and that poem specifically is brilliant and even touches on more social issues in terms of like that are still prevalent today with like my body, my choice and stuff like that. And she has that line where she says, your body belongs to the revolution because you don't have another person growing inside your body. And it's just such a beautiful, fascinating articulation of women and women's rights and like our bodies and our minds, if that makes sense. So
it's the scene for me where all of the things that we've discussed and all of the big questions that this film presents, it's where they start to come to the surface. They've all been there. They've all been, the breadcrumbs have been laid, and on a rewatch, you can see them plain as day. But it's in that scene and in that moment as she's reading that poem where me as the audience member starts to look inward.
Yeah.
Good on you, Miss Fishback. Excellent work. Piece of trivia number 2. This film is the first movie to have multiple black performers, Lakeith Stanfield and Daniel Kaluuya, nominated for the Oscars for Best Supporting Actor. And it just so happens to be in the same movie.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. And then this one's kind of heavy. Piece of trivia number 3. The attempted poisoning scene. The poisoning scene was filmed on the 50th anniversary of its occurrence.
No way.
They don't actually know that it can't be proven that O'Neill actually was the person who did the poisoning. But in any case, it happened on the 50th anniversary of its occurrence, and Daniel Kaluuya is talking about it, and he said that it was just like a really, really heavy day. Before they filmed it, they had a few words. They like made a speech, talk to the crew, and they were, just making everybody feel loved and putting everybody in a safe place. But he said, even the stuff I was saying in that scene, the decision he makes in that scene to say that on that day was really heavy. I think if I did it any other day, I wouldn't be able to do it like I did on that day. So, yeah. Interesting.
Wow. That's actually crazy to now I'm just going over that scene in my head, which is unforgettable and absolutely gut-wrenching, powerful stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful picture. I've talked some shite, if you will, about the suits, the higher ups at the old Warner Brothers Pictures. If you guys are listening, I would recommend, I will take back what I said. If you potentially, on its 5-year anniversary, which is coming up next year, give this a whole re-release in the theaters. Give it the theatrical run it never had.
Yes.
And
oh God, I would go 100%.
The way things are going, we may really, really need it on the big screen a year from now. So just a thought. Seriously. Food for thought.
A new edition.
Yeah, a new segment. Food for thought. It's available on demand, possibly available at local video stores because it has come out in this weird era of cinema ? Where some movies just don't even get a Blu-ray release anymore. But check your local video stores. Maybe they have it. And I'm sure it would look it's beautifully shot. So it'd look excellent on a Blu-ray or 4K or what have you, it is not available at your local video stores, then I would recommend paying the mere $3 and renting it.
Next, we're going to be jumping into probably Kaluuya's most well-known performance in the horror film Get Out. God, one of the best, I think one of the best modern horror movies ever made. But it's not just that, it's also, I would argue that it's one of the most defining movies in horror of the last decade. And
it's one of the most impactful films of this century so far.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even a bold statement.
Yeah. It's just the truth here on the Gimme Three podcast. No, but when it was released in 2017, as we kind of mentioned earlier, it immediately became a cultural phenomenon. It's blending psychological horror, satire, and social commentary in a way that I think felt really fresh and was terrifying and, most importantly, very relevant. It's written and directed by Jordan Peele, his first feature film. It follows Chris, a black man, visiting his white girlfriend Rose's family for the first time. At first, the trip seems like a pretty standard, uncomfortable weekend with overbearing parents trying way too hard to be progressive. Chris tries to go along with everything calmly and peacefully, but he quickly realizes that there is something very, very, very wrong with this whole scene. We've got offhand comments from white wealthy guests at a garden party, the strangely vacant expressions of the family's black housekeeper and groundskeeper. Rose's mother keeps insisting on hypnotizing Chris to cure his smoking habit. It's all very unsettling.
It's all very white.
It's all very white and creepy and awful. So yeah, what starts off as a very awkward weekend getaway with just this simmering but very powerful feeling of discomfort, which is largely brought on by just this like constant flow of microaggressions as well, quickly unravels into something far more sinister, leaving Chris in a waking nightmare questioning not only his safety, but the true intentions of everyone around him. As I mentioned in our intro, a breakout moment for Daniel Kaluuya. His performance is so just filled with tension, fear, incredible emotional weight. His physical performance as well, in this one, he really communicates so much with his expressions, his eyes, his body language, as we mentioned earlier. And in this film, it's just extraordinary. It's impossible not to praise this performance. But beyond like a critical and commercial success, Get Out really sparked a flood of conversations about race and privilege and proving that horror will always be political. It won Jordan Peele the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay as well, which made him the first Black screenwriter to win in that category, which blew my mind. And yeah, it's one of the most, I think to this day, it's one of the most talked about and beloved films in recent history among horror fans and non-horror fans, which just speaks volumes about this film as well. So, Nick, what are your thoughts on Get Out?
It's one of those movies that I just think is a true masterpiece. It's one of those movies, and this type of movie doesn't come along often, where you walk out of the theater and you're just like seminal moment in cinema. Like I can count maybe 3 times in my life where I've said that it's like this changed the game right here. That's what people walking out of Star Wars felt, or people walking out of The Graduate felt. It's like, okay, here's a shift in the medium. But what's wonderful about it, and wonderful about Jordan Peele, is he accomplished this not by doing something really even that unique, because the film obviously draws inspiration from like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, drama,
right,
and then horror classics like Rosemary's Baby and Stepford Wives and Halloween. Like, it is got this innate knowledge of the horror genre. But what it's doing is it's just taking all of the tropes that we know and love and subverting them. And as a trained, sometimes subconsciously trained horror audience, we are watching these things and be like, okay, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. And Jordan Peele would just jump ahead of us and be like, no, it's not. Or, oh, it is going to happen, but he's doing it in a totally different way. Or, oh, he's doing that now. Or, okay, normally we want this to happen, but given where the characters are and given what the situation is, I don't want that to happen. So it's just a goddamn masterclass in screenwriting and filmmaking. I mean, just top to bottom. It is one of the gifts to the medium as I said, in the last 25 years.
I remember the first time I watched it. I wish that I got to see it on the big screen. Maybe one day.
Oh, you fucked up. What happened?
I don't know. I think for some reason it just wasn't like on my radar when it came out. I was kind of just getting into horror that year. Before that, I used to be like too scared.
Yeah.
But this was definitely one of the movies where I was like, oh yeah, horror rocks. Like, this is so fun. And so, yeah, it was kind of funny to like watch this movie and then go and watch all those movies that you mentioned that inspired it. Halloween or like The Shining. There are so many moments that remind me of that film as well. What a masterpiece. And Daniel Kaluuya, this is just a performance for the ages. It's unreal. I mean, I feel like we have to talk about the hypnotism scene, the sunken place. One thing that I thought about watching this again, I've seen this movie a few times now, but was some of the scariest moments happen in like warm or bright lighting. Like that hypnosis scene, he's coming out of like the dark at night into the dark house, but then he sees the mother, played by, I believe, Catherine Keener. Is that who it is? Yeah.
Yep.
And she's in this very bright, warm, lit room. It's kind of deceiving in that way. Like I don't know if deceiving is the right word.
There you go. It's subverting the tropes, subverting the expectations. Because we associate warm lighting with okay, everything's going to be all right.
And the way that like they dive into his own trauma and psychology in that scene as well, with his mother, for our listeners, died in a hit and run. And he's built up all of this guilt because he just sat at home and kept watching TV, hoping that she would come home or that it wasn't real. Catherine Keener's character, the mother, really forces him to confront that, but not in like a therapeutic way. It's like a torturous way. And you can see he doesn't even have, like, he'll say a few lines in this scene about the details of it, but he's saying so much with his body language and his eyes. Like he's tearing up so much that his eyes are completely bloodshot, like bright red. And he's just holding back all of this pain and torture and emotion. And it gives me chills even just thinking about it. That scene is just remarkable.
Come here, Chris, look at me.
Found it.
Where was your mom?
She was coming home. She wasn't home.
From work? And what did you do?
Nothing.
Nothing?
I just sat there.
You didn't call anyone?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. I just thought that if I did, it'd make it real.
You're so scared. You think it was your fault? How do you feel now?
I can't move.
You can't move.
Why can't I move?
You're paralyzed. Just like that day when you did nothing. You did nothing. Now, sink into the floor.
Wait.
Sink.
And that image of him, like, with his mouth agape and, you know, like a tear, like, falling out of his eye. It's, again, I was talking about, you know, like, walking out of the theater and be like, okay, that's a seminal movie. Like, that just really shifted everything. That image has become one of those images that I think will be played, you know, in the, you know, highlight reels or montages of like, here is cinema, you know, this is cinema. Here's the, you know, Grapes of Wrath and the Wizard of Oz, and that image. That
And
image
Get
is,
Out,
is
baby.
is one of those images that's just like boom,
It's so
unforgettable.
true. And I would add the sound design in this movie, and specifically that scene. I love it so much because sound is even like a massive plot point in terms of her hypnotism methods. The teacup and the scraping of the spoon against the glass. It's like nails on a chalkboard. But it's brilliant because it's like nails on a chalkboard, but it is also hypnotic.
Yeah, right.
Obviously. And then she like clinks the cup 3 times and tells him to sink into the floor. And God, Catherine Keener is perfect casting as well because she has this really deep tone. And when she says it the first time, you're like, ooh, I didn't like that. And then she says sink like really low and kind of reverbed. And the score comes in and you see this incredible scene of him sinking into the couch and it gets all sci-fi shit and crazy. And you're just like, oh, wow, I did not see this coming, but I am so here for it.
Yeah, it's perfect casting because the other thing is like everybody loves Catherine Keener, you know? So it's like perfect because unbeknownst to us, we're just like also like, oh yeah, the warm lighting is great. It's like also, hey, I fucking love Catherine Keener. I will gladly have a, you know, as an audience member, just like, sit down, man. It's Keener. It's Keener. It's all good, baby. Fuck no, it ain't.
Well, no, it ain't. Yeah. Well, and like she also in the script, even like she kind of frames herself as a friend. Like she's always the apologist for her husband saying dumb shit.
Right.
She's like, I'm so sorry about him. Or like
right.
little things that kind of make you think, oh, maybe she's the better one. But then you discover she's one of the more diabolical of the characters.
Right. Well, and then that becomes even more true with the girlfriend, you know. The girlfriend who is
exactly
seemingly the biggest apologist and the biggest advocate. And Jordan Peele writes her so brilliantly because she gets so upset at the, what do you call, clumsy racism.
Yeah, straight up.
and she verbalizes it to him. So us as the audience members, like, okay, yeah, well, she gets it, you know, so maybe, you know, we can trust her. Nope.
No, sir. And
no pun intended. Nope.
Yeah, true. Yeah, her switch up is God. That's another seminal moment. Like I will never forget how much I didn't see that coming. The first time I watched it. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Hey, I was 17. I didn't know. Another person actually I want to shout out while we're talking about it outside of Daniel Kaluuya is Betty Gabriel as Georgina, their housekeeper. What a fucking performance. Oh my God. She might be one of the scariest aspects of this film for me. because one, just like the jump scares are great, but her performance specifically is just so amazing because she, I would say, is the one really who the first thing that makes you say, that's not who this person is.
She's broken. What the fuck happened there?
Yes, exactly. God, that scene, I love the way they shoot it, where she goes in to apologize to Chris for unplugging his phone, his cellular device. You can see the other part of her character trying to break out.
Right.
And it's just, we have Daniel Kaluuya's physical performance. I think hers is on par with that as well, honestly.
Yeah.
I owe you an apology. How rude of me to have touched your belongings without asking.
Oh, no, it's cool. I was just confused.
Well, I can assure you there was no funny business. Allow me to explain. I lifted your cellular phone to wipe down the dresser, and it accidentally came undone.
Yeah, I
Rather than meddle with it further, I left it that way. How foolish of me.
It's fine. I wasn't trying to snitch.
Snitch.
Rat you out.
Tattletale.
Yeah.
Oh, don't you worry about that. I can assure you, I don't answer to anyone.
Right. All I know is sometimes, if there's too many white people, I get nervous,
Aren't you something? That's not my experience. Not at all. The Armitages are so good to us. They treat us like family.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Just while we're on the topic, I have a question.
Sure.
About Georgina. I think after the first night that he's there, he wakes up and sees that Rose, his girlfriend's closet door, is open. And he doesn't go inside to look in it until like the very end of the film when things are really chaotic. But there's a lot of shots of him noticing that it's open. And I was just wondering, like, do you think Georgina did that? Like, is that her?
Oh, could be. Yeah.
Because I just always wonder, like, how much of she's kind of one of the characters that seems almost like more out of control.
Right.
In terms of like her inner person is trying to come out.
Right. Yeah. I could.
But that's one I've always been curious about.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense.
Which is such a great like contrast to her other person, like unplugging his phone to keep him a prisoner there. So it's very mysterious.
Yeah. I like that. I really like that. When I saw it, I took it because my mind was just in this place of Jordan Peele being very aware of the horror tropes. And also I had the pleasure of seeing both this and Us with a mostly black audience, a mostly black theater audience. And Jordan Peele knows the black horror audience so well because in horror movies, they always got that door or that pathway or that darkness into somewhere that is going to be bad. And
the basement or something.
And if you have ever watched a horror movie with a black audience, it's the best thing ever because everybody just goes, don't do it, you stupid motherfucker. You don't go in that fucking... And it's like 18 different people screaming at this person not to do it. And then they do it, and obviously it does not turn out well. And then they say, told you. But I thought that he was showing them the open door and be like, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm smart. I'm a smart character.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Chris is also one of like the only, or not only, sorry. Chris is one of the few final guys in horror as well, which is pretty cool. And he's a smart one. He's very smart.
Yeah, smart
which
character.
Is, yeah, like you said, already subverts
a lot of the horror tropes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I have a Gimme Three here that's like not really trivia. It's just kind of like Jordan Peele. It's just fun to hear him talk about this movie. So I got Jordan Peele gives us 3. It's just like some things he has said about. He was asked at a Q&A if Universal requested a sequel to this film. And he said, of course they have. It was the first thing they said, it's like, let's do a sequel. And
let's do it again.
And he said, I'm open to it, but I won't do a sequel just for a cash grab. If it's right and it feels good and I feel like I can beat the original, then I will do it.
Whew. Respect.
Mad respect. Everybody should read that. Every studio head should read that and tattoo it on their fucking forehead backwards so that way every time they look in the mirror, they see it.
I love it.
Okay, when Jordan Peele was writing the scene that you talked about earlier, Bella, that scene where he's under hypnosis, Jordan Peele said he ended up crying while he was writing that scene the first time. He states that there was a point in the process where I got to something very vulnerable, and what started out as a fun scene evolved into tears. And I was writing about Chris and this hypnosis and the sunken place, and I ended that day crying. It was very cathartic, and I wouldn't describe it as fun. So, I mean, that scene is so memorable. They always say you have to get to the truth of a scene, and that dude found the truth in his writing process in that moment, and it obviously comes across. This is not the final piece, but while we're talking about the writing, I think Jordan Peele said at one point that he had gone through 200 drafts of this screenplay. So
holy shit. So
for all of my screenwriter friends out there who I don't know, who say, okay, what's taken it so long? It took him 200 drafts. And for all of my screenwriter friends who I do know, who, God bless you, I love you, and thank you for taking the time to read some of my work. And they say, God damn, you're giving me draft 15? How many drafts are you going to do? It's like, well, fuck. Until it's right. God damn it.
200.
Until it's right.
Yes.
Okay.
I love it.
Final piece of Jordan Peele, Gimme Three here. Around Christmas on Twitter, somebody asked director Jordan Peele, this goes back to our Christmas movie or not episode, which we did at the end of last year. If you haven't listened to it, definitely check it out. So around Christmas 2017, a Twitter user asked Jordan Peele if the film was a Christmas movie, to which Jordan Peele jokingly tweeted back, let's see, there's a man with a white beard, multiple deer, a fireplace, a bunch of snowflakes, and a guy named Chris who goes down a dark hole. I'd say go for it.
Oh my God. That's amazing. Why not?
Why not? And then I just also want to mention before we move on that this movie had a budget of $4.5 million and made $255.5 million at the box office.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you're fucking up.
Yeah.
But there's
You're missing
time.
out.
There's still time to correct, to check yourself and correct yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And watch this movie at, of course, the streaming platform would be available on demand or at your local video stores. Vidiots, Videotech, and Cinephile Video. If you live in the city, the beautiful city of Los Angeles, those are 3 great places where you can rent your films and rent Get Out or buy it because it's worth it.
Oh, so worth it.
It's also a great read. If you want to read the screenplay, it is a wonderful screenplay read. And that's available online. You can find that easily by just typing it in. All right, my friends, we are going to take a quick break. And during that break, you are going to hear from Gimme Three producer, LADFF director, and my wife, Sonja Mereu, dive into a segment called Sonja's Movie Minute. So stick around for that, where she will discuss the other collaboration between Jordan Peele and Daniel Kaluuya. And we will be back right after that, right here on the Gimme Three podcast.
Hello, I'm Sonja, and this is my Movie Minute. When I saw the trailer for Nope, I was all in. I knew I was going to love it, and it didn't disappoint. Not only does Jordan Peele give us a suspenseful, smart, funny, and thrilling alien movie, he directs career best performances from Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Brandon Perea, Michael Wincott, and Stephen Yeun. Oh, and on top of all that, he enlightens us on the undertold history of Black cowboys on film and behind the scenes. And he asks us to think about the power of both looking and being seen. Going back to the performances, Keke Palmer is absolutely undeniable as Emerald. She's funny, smart, resourceful, and kind of a hot mess. You want to party with her, and you definitely want her on your side during an alien invasion. Daniel Kaluuya as OJ is much more restrained. He's a working man and a cowboy who just wants to get the job done and go home to his ranch in Agua Dulce. But when he realizes that an alien killed his father and is inexplicably terrorizing his home and animals, he becomes a hero. He uses his genius and empathy for wild animals to outsmart the alien. I've seen Nope 3 times, and each time it reveals more meaning and storytelling genius. So if you haven't seen it, or you've seen it 3 times, or 10 times, watch Nope, enjoy, and be enlightened.
All right, welcome back to the Gimme Three podcast, everybody. Today is Daniel Kaluuya's birthday. Happy birthday, Daniel. We're celebrating by discussing some incredible movies that he's been in. We started with Judas and the Black Messiah, the film that he won the Academy Award for. And then, of course, the classic, the modern classic, Get Out by Jordan Peele. And now we are going to bring it home with a 2019 film called Queen and Slim. It is directed by Melina Matsoukas and written by Lena Waithe. It stars Daniel Kaluuya and Jodie Turner-Smith. And Daniel Kaluuya was a EP on the film as well. So we start out, as any modern love story does, with a Tinder date. Ernest, he's on this date with Angela at a diner. And this date isn't exactly going well. Angela is curt. She is, I'd say, a tad rude to Ernest. And Ernest isn't really doing himself any favors either. He's not the beacon of charm, let's say. But as Ernest is taking Angela home, they start to warm up to each other. And just when we start to think they're going to be like, okay, let's get it on, whoop, whoop, they're pulled over by a cop. This may be a good time to mention that both of our characters are black. And also a good time to mention that this is not just any cop. This is one of them bad apples, as somebody once put it. This dude is aggressive. He's disrespectful, this cop. And let me check my notes here. He is racist. So despite trying to cooperate, Ernest gets a gun pulled on him by this police officer. Angela, who is a lawyer, is not having it. She gets out, goes to pull out her phone to record the officer, and bang, she is shot in the leg. And Ernest tackles this police officer, and caught up in the moment, he shoots and kills the cop. He is, as Ice-T so eloquently put it, a cop killer. So these two people who really just met are now on the run from the law. And because the situation was caught on the dashboard camera, they are now also famous. And Black people and other activists all over the country see that Queen and Slim were defending themselves, and they become folk heroes of sorts. They kind of get help as they're making their way, moving through the South to try and get to Cuba. In the meantime, on the way, can they find love for each other? Can they find love for themselves? This is Queen and Slim. Bella, what were your thoughts on Queen and Slim?
Yeah, I'd seen this movie before for Daniel Kaluuya. I think there are a lot of strong points in this film. Like I think the cinematography is really beautiful. Mm-hmm. It plays a lot with really rich and different color palettes that like it has a very nice visual aesthetic. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I don't know that this movie is for me. I can't lie. I think it's not totally balanced mm-hmm. in like the writing or just the plot, I guess, as a whole. There's kind of an imbalance between like trying to be realistic and talk about real issues, but then there's like all these other things going on. I don't know. It was a bit disjointed for me, I guess is the right word I'm looking for.
Right.
And I think Daniel Kaluuya's performance is really good. I wouldn't say it's anywhere near what we've seen in Judas and the Black Messiah or Get Out.
Yeah.
I would argue that he had more to work with in those films than this one as well. I don't know. Yeah, it's there's a lot of strong points, but ultimately it doesn't totally work for me, to be honest.
I also there were a lot of things that I do love about this film. I'll touch mm-hmm. on those before starting to maybe explore, why it didn't work in some other elements of the film. Like you said, I love Kaluuya. I think he's great in it. I didn't pick this up the first viewing, but I got it more on this viewing where he plays a very genuine kind of boy trapped in a man's body, but presenting as a man. You know what I mean? Like presenting himself as he is so not ready for this moment. Like that happens to him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like who would be, but
right.
He's like so in over his head. But in a subtle way, we see him grow and we see him become the man that he needs to be.
Yeah.
I love Bokeem Woodbine. I love him in everything, but I really love him in this. He plays Angela's pimp of an uncle, and he just he fucking owns it. His outfits are apt.
Oh my God.
They are so wonderful.
Yes.
His house is wonderful. Yeah, like I just loved his character. I loved being in that house. And the other thing that I really love is the way that Matsoukas and her DP shoot characters in cars, or the way that they film characters in cars. And because they're on the run for so much of this film, there is a lot of scenes with characters in vehicles. So where they choose to put the camera on a lot of these car rigs and car mounts is kind of inventive. Like there's some shots in here that's like, haven't seen that before done on cars, and I've seen a lot of car shots. But they also do like a lot of really interesting lead room things with these car shots, like where a character will be like hugging one edge of frame, and most of the time it's like the edge of frame you wouldn't expect them to be hugging. So
yeah.
Those are the things that I really dug. As you said, there were some aspects of the film that didn't work for me as much either, or they left me wanting more, I guess. And I think it's like after discussing Judas and the Black Messiah and Get Out,
Mm-hmm.
I think I may have a better understanding of what's not quite hitting for me. And it may have hit for other people, but it didn't hit for me. Was when we were talking about Judas and the Black Messiah, I was talking about kind of the balance of psyche, of like real strong characters and character depth balanced with the social hypothesis and the social questions. And this film seems to me to be almost all social hypothesis. And again, this is just for me. It's missing that character depth. The external conflict is there, obviously, based off of the intro I gave. But what I was craving was more of the internal conflict, which may be why, for me, sometimes I found myself asking, oh, that seems kind of out of character for them to be doing that right now, or she's doing that. That seems kind of out of character. But maybe it was also because I didn't really know who the characters were.
Okay, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And that, I feel like that also just shows how incredible of an actor Daniel Kaluuya is, because the film ended and I was like, yeah, I don't know anything about these people, to be honest, like except for what happened to them. But like, which is crazy because the movie, another thing I struggled with was like, I guess I kind of thought it would be more of like a crime thriller, but it's very much a road trip movie, which is very interesting on paper. I don't know that it was executed in a way that I could really appreciate. Besides, like you mentioned, the car shots were very well done. There just were a bit too many for me.
I agree. Yeah.
Like at one point I kind of felt like I almost had like car commercial ads in the middle of this film, because it was like, wait, we were just doing something and now we're just back on the road.
Right.
And then like in those moments would have been such a great opportunity for really deep discussions on like between them to like help us get to know them. And they kind of touch on them. You know, we learned that, Daniel Kaluuya's character is religious and believes in God and believes that his future is destined. And Queen believes in luck and she doesn't believe in God. All these just like little details that are done in kind of a poetic way, but I don't think it goes like far enough for me, if that makes sense. Like I wanted maybe more of that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think the characters lack flaws. They're both a little too perfect for me. It feels like they're both symbols, for something, which is cool. And there are parts of that film where I think it works, and in those parts it's strong. But what the film has to say is, I think either most people agree with, or if they don't agree with it, are aware of it, whether they want to admit it or not. And again, I'm just going to reference Judas and the Black Messiah again, because we just watched it. But it took that movie took the backdrop of revolution against system, and police brutality, all themes that this film explores. And what Judas does is it forces me, the audience member, to say, who am I? Where am I in that? Have I lost myself? Has this country lost itself? How do we find ourselves? I related to each of the key players of that story. I related to Fred Hampton. I related to O'Neill. I related to Dominique's character. And the final lines of that movie, I just was totally blown away by on that rewatch, was Jesse Plemons, who's with the FBI, is like, one more fancy dinner with O'Neill after all the shit has gone down. And spoiler alert, Fred Hampton has been assassinated. And Jesse Plemons' character asks him, so, what's going on with the Black Panther party now? And here are the final two lines of the movie. O'Neill says, I ain't no goddamn Black Panther anymore. And Plemons says, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? This heavy question that is presented at the end of the film, and that's what lingers. I did not get any of that from either viewings of the film. The time that I watched this movie, Queen and Slim gave us an answer, and it was an answer that I already knew.
Yeah,
I knew this. Yes.
Yes, it's not all that. Respectfully, it's not all that thought provoking.
Yeah,
like you're saying.
Right.
It's just telling you how to think and feel about it. And like not in like a negative way. It's not like,
it's like I agree with their
exactly. But it does like bang you over the head with the message a lot.
Yeah.
And like it's just kind of the one message too. Like with Judas, they really dive into so many different interconnected issues within this main overarching one. In this one, it's like it doesn't go deeper than just the stories we see in the newspaper and stuff like that.
And even with Get Out, they have, again, exploring similar themes, but they're also exploring, just like suppression of Black voice, but like doing it in a way that is, it's again the scene that we talked about, that infamous hypnotizing scene, but they are doing it in a way where they're cutting through the most vulnerable and specific parts of this person's traumatic experiences, and what makes him, what's making this human man crack. What is this man afraid of in his own personal life? And that is what everybody, Black, white, yellow, orange, can relate to. Because we all are afraid of something, and we all have some fucking trauma in our hearts. They always say when you're, in screenwriting, they say the more specific and the more personal that you get with your storytelling and your characters, the more universal they become. I was looking, I think this film needed a little bit more specificity in their characters.
I agree with that. And like, even just in a way, like making them just symbols and not fully humanizing them, I think kind of makes this film shoot itself in the foot a bit as well. Like that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't love that aspect of it.
Yeah.
There were actually, quite a few moments that I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? I don't know if we want to go there, but one of them was just, there's a scene where it's after they've met this young Black kid named Junior.
Yep, this was the thing that got me kind of upset also.
Okay, yeah, I have to talk about it because it's just, I'm curious to hear, what you have to say about it as well. But they've met this young Black kid, Junior, and, he's talking to them about how they're his heroes and he looks up to them and all this stuff. And then later in the film, we see they're still on the road. They're falling in love with each other. And the young kid has gone to a protest for them. And the scene is split. It goes back and forth between Queen and Slim fucking, and then this young kid who a Black police officer confronts him and is like, please just go home. Like, this isn't going to end well. You shouldn't be here. You're young. Like, please listen to me. And the kid takes out a gun and shoots him in the face. And it's spliced with like this porno basically. And you're kind of just like, huh? What are we trying to say here? And what does any of these images have to do with the other? I don't know. For me, I was just like, that was on par or like in the same vein, brother and sister, to like we talked about in our, speaking of, are they Christmas movies or not? In Die Hard, when at the end our main guy, God, I can't remember his name for some reason, but the Black cop, his best friend, finally picks up his gun after not picking it up for years, after shooting like an innocent Black kid or something to kill the last bad guy. And you're just like, oh my God, what are we doing right now? Like, this is I don't know. That was just my thought process. It immediately made me think of like the same feelings I had in that scene. So,
but at least with Die Hard, you expected that. Like, I mean, like,
totally.
That movie
yes.
is not shying away from the fact that it is a pro cops, good guys get the bad guys. For lack of a better term, black and white action movie. What kind of threw me about the scene you're referring to was Queen and Slim have kind of been made into martyrs in the story. You know, they are innocent. You know, I mean, like he did shoot the cop, but it was kill or be killed or shoot or be killed essentially. So it's like, okay, you understand how this happened. Like it makes sense and very unfortunate. But anyways, the whole movie, they're saying or presenting that these people are victims and that this is a sign or a way forward for justice. And it's like, okay, like I'm into that hypothesis. But then the kid does that, and you're just like, so what? So what?
Literally, I was speechless.
Yeah.
What does it mean? What does it mean? Genuinely.
Yeah.
It almost has an unfinished feeling to it.
Yeah.
It's almost like the first thing I thought was either this is unfinished or was ran through with like studio notes to the point where it just doesn't totally make sense.
That could totally be possible.
Because like studios already have struggled with telling stories like this in the past. Like we've seen that track record. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know. I'm curious what happened. It could have just been a situation where it was better on paper almost. Like, right. I wonder if this would have been a better novel.
I could see it playing well on paper for sure, because there are some scenes where the characters are talking, and I have said to myself multiple times while watching it, it's like, that is a well-written line. But that is not necessarily a great thing or something that you want to think about while you're watching a movie of like, I don't want to feel like it's written. I want to feel like it's real.
No, totally. I felt that a lot with Queen.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's. I think it's worth checking out because there are some moments of fun in there and some powerful moments also, and it is Melanie Matsoukas' directorial debut of a feature. So like, it's
for me, I was like, the first hour is so good, is great.
I think that's what kind of bums me out about it, is it like has the promise of delivering something really special and then it just kind of loses its way a little bit.
Well, yeah, you guys let us know what you guys think, and you guys can, if you haven't seen it, you can rent it on demand. Maybe it's in your local video stores. Go and find out. You know,
it's on Netflix also.
Oh yes, that's right. So yeah, if you're a Netflix subscriber, check it out. We want to hear what you think of it. All right, well, Daniel Kaluuya, everybody. I think one of the greatest actors of our generation, you know. I think we can say that after all the praise we gave him this episode. From Judas and the Black Messiah to Get Out to Queen and Slim. And this is only, just a few of the many incredible performances that he's blessed us with. So once again, we want to say thank you so, so much for listening and supporting our podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And, hopefully you're now tuned into the hype around Daniel Kaluuya if you weren't before, and you go and check out these films. And let us know what you think of them. You guys can send us a quick text the second you finish watching them. Just scroll down to the episode description and click the send us a text link. You can even drop your own movie recommendations or movies you want to hear us talk about on the podcast or themes you want to hear on the show. Really anything. If you say something funny, maybe we'll read it on the air. So we love to hear from you guys. And of course, we always appreciate feedback as well. You can also follow us on Instagram at Gimme Three Podcast. That's GIMME, spell out 3, podcast, Gimme Three Podcast. Yeah, we post a fun edit of all the films featured in our episode each week, some behind the scenes photos, cinematography, shot deck is in there. And we even also will post like a bunch of polls on our story for y'all to vote on the next films we talk about. So stay tuned for that as well. If you want to support the Gimme Three podcast even more, you can sign up for our Patreon. It's just $5 a month. We post spoiler-free movie reviews and recommendations each month. It's a lot of fun. Another way to support us is by setting our episodes to automatically download either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If you've already done that, let your friends know. It just really helps in boosting our reach so that we can connect with even more cinephiles like yourselves. Anyways, Nick, feel free to tell our listeners where they can find you on the socials.
You could find me on Letterboxd on Instagram and on Blue Sky at Nicholas Ibarra. Ibarra is spelled with a Y.
And you can find me on Instagram at Portrait of a Cinephile or on Letterboxd at Beth Stratus. That's just B and then my last name, F Stratus. Once again, thank you so much for tuning into the Gimme Three podcast, and we'll see you at the movies.